I worked security for a tech complex in Seattle for 2 years. The job was 90% boredom and 10% fighting to stay awake. My station was a small, windowless glass booth on the ground floor, facing a wall of 12 CRT monitors. The facility was designed to be sterile. Gray carpets, white walls, glass doors. At night, through the grain of the low-quality cameras, it looked like a black and white photo of an abandoned hospital. It was a Tuesday, 2:15 a.m. I was doing my usual round of checking the cameras. Cam 1, lobby, clear. Cam 2, elevators, clear. Cam 3, east corridor. I stopped. In the middle of the east corridor, precisely in the center of the frame, there was a chair. It was a standard office swivel chair, black mesh. The problem was, the cleaning crew had left at midnight. I had walked that corridor myself at 1 a.m. It was empty. The chairs were all tucked into the cubicles. I watched the screen, waiting for movement. Nothing. Just the static grain of the low-light sensor. I assumed maybe I missed it earlier. A trick of the memory. Your brain does strange things when you haven't slept. I looked down at my logbook to write the time. It took maybe 5 seconds. When I looked back up at Cam 3, the chair was gone. My stomach dropped. Not because of a ghost, but because that meant someone was physically in the building, moving things fast and silent. I switched to Cam 4, which covered the next section of the hallway, closer to my station. There it was, the chair. But now, it was facing the camera, like it was watching the lens. I grabbed my radio. Protocol says I should go out there and investigate. But something about the stillness of that chair on the screen kept me glued to the seat in my booth. It felt deliberate. Then, the motion sensor light in the east corridor clicked off. The screen went pitch black. I waited for it to trigger again. If someone was moving, the light would snap back on. I waited 1 minute, 2 minutes. Absolute darkness on the screen. Then, slowly, Cam 4 flickered. The overhead lights didn't turn on. Only the emergency exit sign at the far end cast a dim, red glow. The chair was gone. But standing right under the camera was a figure. They were standing so close to the wall that I could only see the top of their head and shoulders. They were pressing their forehead against the drywall, directly underneath the camera lens, hiding from the view, but just barely. They weren't moving. They were frozen. I locked the security booth door immediately. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my pen. I picked up the phone to call the police. As I dialed, I kept my eyes on the monitor. The figure didn't move. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They swept the floor. The corridor was empty. The chair was back in a cubicle, 3 rooms away. No sign of entry. No sign of anyone. They told me I probably hallucinated from exhaustion. They checked the playback, but the system was old. The tape from that hour was corrupted. Just static. I quit the next morning. I didn't quit because of the intruder. I quit because of what I realized on my drive home. Cam 4 doesn't point at a wall. Cam 4 is mounted directly above the door to the security booth. The figure wasn't pressing their forehead against a wall. They were pressing their forehead against the glass of my booth. Standing inches behind me, watching me watch them on the screen. Logistics warehouses are built to dwarf humans. They are cathedrals of cardboard and steel, stretching for miles. When you work the graveyard shift as a picker, You learn to trust the automation more than your own eyes. I worked at a massive distribution center in Ohio. The lighting system was designed to save energy. The aisles were pitch black until a motion sensor detected you, triggering the overhead LEDs to snap on row by row. Click, click, click. It was the only way to navigate the maze. It was around 4 a.m. I was in aisle 40, deep in the electronics sector, scanning inventory. It was dead silent, except for the hum of the conveyor belts far away in the packing district. Then, to my left, the lights in aisle 41 triggered. Clack. I froze. I knew I was the only picker in this sector. I waited to hear the sound of a scanner gun, a cart, or footsteps. Nothing. Then, the next bank of lights turned on. Clack. Someone, or something, was walking down the parallel aisle, matching my pace perfectly. I walked to the gap in the shelving to look through to aisle 41. It was empty. Just an infinite tunnel of illuminated concrete and dust. I blamed a glitch. Maybe a rat. I turned back to my work. That's when I heard it. The sound of heavy packing tape being ripped off a box. It came from the darkness of aisle 45, 4 rows over. I walked toward the sound. As I approached aisle 45, the motion sensors didn't trigger. The aisle remained dark. I used my handheld flashlight. The beam cut through the dust motes and landed on a wooden pallet halfway down the row. A large box had been pulled off the shelf. It wasn't cut open with a box cutter. It had been torn open. Violently. Shreds of cardboard were bent outward. Whatever opened it didn't open it to steal something. It looked like something had clawed its way out of the box. That's when the lights in aisle 44, the one directly behind me, clicked off. Then aisle 43, then 42. The darkness wasn't random. It was moving toward me. The sensors weren't timing out. Something was blocking them. Something tall enough to reach the sensors was moving through the aisles, extinguishing the lights as it came closer. I ran. I didn't look back. But as I sprinted toward the break room, the only sound I heard over my own breathing was the rhythmic clack, clack, clack of the lights turning on and off behind me, trying to keep up. Hospitals never truly sleep, but the subacute wards do. I was a night nurse at a rehabilitation facility in rural Maine. The building was old, the kind with heavy wooden doors and checkered linoleum floors that amplified every sound. My station was a bubble of light in a dark corridor. The call light board, the panel that lights up when a patient needs help, was usually quiet after midnight. At 3:33 a.m., a light triggered on the board. Room 305. I stared at it. Room 305 had been empty for 3 days. The previous patient, Mrs. Gable, had passed away on Monday. Housekeeping had stripped the bed. The mattress was bare. I reset the light from the desk. Electrical short, I told myself. Old wiring. 10 seconds later, buzz. Room 305 lit up again. This time I picked up the intercom handset. I pressed the button. Is anyone there? I expected silence. Instead, through the static of the old intercom system, I heard the distinct sound of bed sheets rustling, the friction of fabric on fabric, then a heavy, wet cough. It sounded exactly like the fluid-filled lungs of the patient who had died there.
Thirsty.
A voice whispered. It was dry, cracking. My skin went cold. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down the hall. The corridor was silent. The door to 305 was closed. I stood outside the door. I could hear movement inside. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was pitch black, illuminated only by my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The bed was empty, just the bare, plastic-covered mattress reflecting the light. But as I moved the beam across the bed, I stopped. In the center of the mattress, there was a deep indentation, the distinct shape of a human body pressing down into the foam, as if someone invisible was lying right there, staring up at me.
Thirsty.
And as I watched, paralyzed, the indentation slowly began to rise. The foam compressed, then expanded back to flat, as if the invisible weight was lifting itself off the bed and standing up to greet me.